I thought like with Wine Enthusiast, we were just like wines and magazine, and getting into it, I learned it's such a multi-channel business. There's commerce division, there's the Wine Enthusiast shop. It's not buying bottles of wine. They have everything for your home needs to enjoy wine.
I mean, they have things like the craziest decanters I've ever seen. Like,
Yeah, they have a lot up to date. And this store brings it all there. There's the editorial and digital content side, events, a travel division. So all this stuff, I was like, wow, I thought we were just going to taste some wine and write about it. And it's so much more of a diverse company, which is really, really cool and makes it so much more exciting. And then there's the ratings and reviews, right? And that's where my role sits.
Hello, welcome to Masterclass US Wine Market with me, your host, Juliana Colangelo. This show has been designed to demystify the U.S. market for Italian wineries through interviews with experts in sales and distribution, social media, communications, and so much more. We will quiz each of our esteemed guests in every episode to solidify the lessons that we've learned from the episode. So sharpen your pencils, get out your notebooks, and join us this week to learn more about the U.S. market.
hello, welcome to Masterclass US Wine Market on the Italian Wine Podcast. Today we are joined by Michael Laudenslager, the wine director at Peasant in New York City, where he oversees one of the city's most respected Italian-focused wine programs, rooted in regional authenticity and food-driven selections. Michael is a seasoned sommelier and wine director with deep expertise in Italian wine, but he is also, as of recently, one of the newest reviewers for Wine Enthusiast, where he will be covering emerging producers and evolving trends across Italy. So excited to have you here on the Italian Wine Podcast, Michael. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Juliana. Thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of our listeners who might not know you, tell us a little bit about your story and how you found yourself sitting today as the wine director of Peasant and also Wine Enthusiast's newest critic.
Yeah. You know, how I got into wine. First job I ever had was restaurants. I started really young age, kind of a familiar story for people that are lifers, right? 15 years old, illegal, working, right? So they threw me in the back, washing dishes, the whole thing, right? I took it seriously, found my way on lines for chefs and restaurants, and I was actually cooking first.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
What kind of restaurant were you cooking in?
I was French trained. So
Okay.
my chef, my uncle, he's a big French chef. So he threw me on the line, and he loved having me on the line because we were family, so he could yell at me all he wants. And it was French trains, right? So he could really lean into me. I mean, this is back in the day. So yeah, there was a lot to say. Once I got, pretty serious about my job, he actually threw me in the front of the house because he wanted me to know everything. And I was young enough to figure out if I want to be in the back or the front. So he sent me to a really good restaurant where a lot of his buddies ran the front of the house.
And this is in Philly, right?
Yeah, this is Philadelphia. That's where I got my start. I was born and raised in this restaurant, and I worked in a couple before. It had a sommelier, and I didn't know what it was. A lot of my friends who were younger didn't know what that was, and I quickly learned that it was a wine guy. To make it like real simple, right? That's the guy sells
That's
wine.
one way to put it, for sure.
Exactly. And he actually got my hair caught on fire with wine. I went from lying to the table being like, yep, great vintage, drinking really well right now, which is what everyone says, right?
Yeah.
And he ended up kind of training me and taking me under his wing. And he's a really great guy. And coming from a kitchen background, there was just a lot of knowledge behind it, a lot more than just setting the table and talking to guests, so it was it quickly turned to a career for me when I found out I really loved it. Yeah. And, God, going through my career, it landed me in DC to work with Marriott for a little bit. Ended up being a director of restaurants in multiple properties for them.
Wow.
Yeah, Marriott got me to New York City, which is cool because they move you around.
Okay.
I thought I was going to go to Hawaii because it sounded nice sitting on a beach, but I was like, yo, what are you going to do with restaurants in Hawaii? So I was like, you got to go to New York.
Yeah.
Went to New York, and then I started chasing some really good chefs around. I ended up with, eventually I ended up working with Mark Forgione, amazing master chef. Yeah, amazing chef. And I landed with Italian wine, which is kind of how I started.
Okay. So it all kind of came back full circle to Italy.
Full circle thing, exactly. And it just didn't go Super Tuscans and Barolo. I landed in a place where I could do anything I want in terms of Italian wine, and it was incredible. So I explored every region you got, every grape I could get my hands on. And I think eventually that's what kind of put me in touch with Wine Enthusiast. They're strengthening their Team Italia, and
yeah,
and I have this job now with them that I'm crazy thankful for.
That's so exciting. Yeah, I mean, with Jeff Porter and Danielle, such a dynamic duo, and now a very dynamic trio with you on board. And we're excited to kind of hear a little bit more about that role and how the three of you will work together to cover all things Italy. I mean, there's so much, like you said, to in there from all the regional varieties, but just the culture of Italian wine. There's endless things to talk about. So excited to hear a little more. But to our listeners, our three core takeaways for today's conversation with Michael. Number one, what are some of the trends in Italian wine today and on premise in New York City specifically, where Michael's sitting? Number two, how do we bridge that gap between, let's say, the wine media and scoring and the consumer? I mean, I think, Michael, your role will really lead into that. And then finally, what are some things to be looking out on the horizon for in 2026 as we come to the end of this crazy year of 2025 in Italian wine? So, Michael, for starters, tell us a little more about the new role with Wine Enthusiast. What will you be covering specifically? How will your role differ or kind of relate to Jeff and Danielle? Tell us all about it.
So, I mean, first and foremost, I thought like with Wine Enthusiast, we are just like wines and magazine, and getting into it, I learned it's such a multi-channel business. There's commerce division, there's the Wine Enthusiast shop, where it's not buying bottles of wine. They have everything for your home needs to enjoy wine or enhance like a wine,
Yeah, all the great accessories. Like, I mean, they have things like the craziest decanters I've ever seen. Like
yeah,
these
they have like,
viral crazy ones, right?
up to date. And this store brings it all there. There's the editorial and digital content side. There's events. There's a travel division. So all this stuff, I was like, wow, I thought we were just going to taste some wine and write about it. And it's so much more of a diverse company, which is really, really cool and makes it so much more exciting. And then there's the ratings and reviews, right? And that's where my role sits.
Okay.
So just like you mentioned, there's three reviewers for Italy. There's Jeff Porter, amazing guy. He worked the floral and wine, and now he's the master of the North, really. And then you have Daniel Caligari, who is reviewing Tuscany, which includes Bulgari, Chianti Classico, everything Brunello, Abruzzo, and Etna, Sicily.
Cool.
Jeff's, just like I said, the North, the Piedmont, Lombardy, Veneto, Emilia Romagna, and so much more.
Right.
And with me, we've become so popular with Wine Enthusiast in the Italian side of things that like we're getting like crazy flooded with a lot of great Italian regions. So
Okay.
I'm going to be taking the sub-regions of Tuscany, taking everything under Tuscany, so like southern Italy, basically. And then I have Sardinia and like central and western Sicily.
Very cool. Okay. So you're taking a lot of the south and then some, and then kind of splitting Sicily. I mean, Danielle will keep Etna. You'll take other Sicily, let's say.
Yeah.
And Sardinia. That's awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah. And again, these are regions like I really care about. So like it happened in such a nice way. It's just kind of like, I don't know, just worlds collided and they lined up, stars lined.
That's amazing. Well, congrats again. That's really exciting. So have you already started tasting? Like, what's the process been like just onboarding into the new role?
It's been great. The team is really, really nice. I mean, young guns, people that are seasoned, everyone has awesome personalities. It's not like, you walk in there and everyone's, in suits and being nerds about, well, we're being nerds about wine, but we're not being like that uppity sommelier vibe. It's
Right.
just really fresh and alive. And it's such a cool team. And the whole process on how we taste is super special. Yeah, it's the blind tasting thing, which like separates us from any other publication or website on how they score wine. We're scoring imported wine. As of lately, we're doing non-imported wines and spirits, which is a pretty big deal. So any producer, any winemaker, they could submit their wine for review, regardless of whether it's imported or not.
Yeah. So, Michael, you also are obviously maintaining your role at Peasant as a wine director, beverage director. How do you see that role at Peasant and now your new position with Wine Enthusiast complementing each other, kind of working together?
Because of the nature of this restaurant and how we created it, we're like super core to Italian culture. And I refuse to put anything but Italian wines on that list. I think it's a rarity in New York City. Soms tend to succumb to Burgundy or whatever region they love. You could walk in an Italian restaurant and someone's like, I love Australia, so here's some Adelaide's wines, which is cool. But like, it's this kind of like, not hyper focused.
Right.
Because of Wine Enthusiast, going to review all of Italy, they work really well because I kind of have that background of tasting these interesting regions. So if somebody wants to put, a plate of Lazio in front of me and there's Cesanese, chances are I've had about 5 or 6 Cesanese already, or maybe more, right?
Right.
And you could say that about any of those regions. So I think it makes so much sense on the regions I'm reviewing. I think that's like how they work beautifully in sync. I don't think any Italian restaurant really gets to explore all 20 regions as much as Peasant gets to.
Right.
And that's just it. I mean, there's oddball grapes on there and we try them over and over. So when the flight comes, it's not new.
Right.
It's something that I get to see a lot, and it's really cool.
Yeah, you'll have the context for those tastings of some of those more esoteric and sub-regions that are coming to Wine Enthusiasts. Like you said, they're getting more and more interaction from Italian producers. So I imagine you're getting some pretty geeky wines coming through the office that you'll get to taste, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure. Don't know how to pronounce them all at first sight, but we learn very quickly as much as we learn how much we like the wine.
We do, exactly. What are some regions, some wines that you're especially excited about right now, whether it's something that you recently brought on the list at Peasant or maybe a new discovery at Wine Enthusiast? What are some things that are exciting you about Italian wine these days?
Well, when I saw that I'm getting Sardinia, I got super excited. My eyes lit up. There's a region there that produces Cannonau, which is Grenache, for anyone that doesn't know what Cannonau is. And the old school style was pretty big and macho, kind of classic, big, rustic Italian wine, which I think could be said for a lot of the regions in the whole world, really. But there is a region, Marmogliata,
Okay.
that is kind of going through the lean, fresh Grenache movement. I think Spain's going through it. If anyone knows like Commando G wines that are like super popular in the market right now.
Okay.
I mentioned Australia earlier, the Adelaides, they're making crazy lean, fresh Grenache. And there's a new like wave of winemakers in Sardinia right now. And they're specifically in that region. They tend to be a little bit more younger and they're taking over, family wines and stuff like, or wineries, and they're making them in the same style. Now, not everything is in the States yet. It's slow pulsing into the market.
Okay.
But this is something I'm really gonna try to get my hands on and help them get into this market because it's super exciting. And I think this is what the world wants right now. And we're reviving a region that's like not unknown, but kind of gets lost a little bit when you're looking at an Italian wine list.
Right. And I mean, you've seen the boom of Etna and Sicily and now, Sardinia as far as island wine, but that's pretty cool. That's exciting. How do you think we, as an industry, when it comes to like a smaller region, smaller producers, like the ones you're talking about, obviously they have to find a route to market and find an importer and distributor network. And in New York, there's thousands. So it's one of the first markets that people come to. But how do you think, I don't know when I say solve a problem, but how do you start connecting these smaller niche esoteric wines to the consumer in a way that, they remember the brands, they go and try to find the wines, they can find the wines. How do we solve that for that problem? Let's say for it's, on the supplier side, access, let's call it, and then the consumer side also access. Like, how do we start bridging that gap more?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's confusing to the consumer, right? Like
Yeah.
there's so many regions, there's so many grapes. And really what I do, my trick is just talking about like what's popular in the region, right? So if I'm going to talk
Yeah.
Emilia Romagna to a guest, I'm going to let them know that like balsamic comes from that region and prosciutto di Parma comes from that region. And
Right.
also great, the wine they're about to drink also comes from that region, right?
And it's probably Lambrusco, right?
And it's probably Lambrusco or some weird grape like Scavetta that I found,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yo, check this out. And that's like, crazy esoteric. But if you want to go to something that's maybe a little bit more in the spotlight, like Campagna for, wine fanatics and sommeliers and the latter, if you want to talk Fiano, right, or Greco di Tufo, of course, that's going to be a little bit of an oddball grape for someone in a restaurant that's never had all the Italian wine. So I'm going to talk like Buffalo mozzarella. You know what I mean? So there's all these things. And here's the thing. They're not going to remember Greco di Tufo right away. But they
Right.
come back to me and they'll be like, yo, can we have the Buffalo mozzarella wine? And I'm like, you know what? That's cool enough because you like it. You ask for it again. And just like we have to learn, you don't get it on the first try, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Normally, you don't. So like, it's great that they come back and we're known for our wines. And then eventually it starts to set in with them, And now I have people that only drink certain Greco di Tufo. And I asked for people that like, Mike, do you have really salty Fiano? And I'm like, this is amazing,
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've introduced them to read through food, which is, let's say, a more friendly entry point, perhaps more relatable, memorable, and then gradually, as they keep coming back, they start drilling down further and further to producer, to vintage, maybe to style.
Yeah, exactly. And because Italy is so rich in culture and especially food, I mean, it's a UNESCO heritage site now with
Yes,
food,
very
right,
exciting.
which is incredible. You could hit any region and name something, right? Whether it's pesto in Liguria, right? Bistecca Fiorentina in Tuscany, and you could go on and on and on.
Absolutely. Speaking of, you said Campagna's kind of hot right now with your drinkers at Peasant. Anything else right now you're noticing on the floor that people are really gravitating towards at Peasant?
Yeah, there are some pretty cool requests or what people are asking to drink, and it's not all natural wine, which is pretty
Okay,
cool.
that's cool.
I know it's a touchy subject, but I'm just gonna say I don't think we got natural wine right the first time. The
Mm,
first go around. What's pretty cool is Italy. They're probably the most patient people in the world, most patient country in the world. The minimal intervention thing. I have people saying, minimal intervention wines. We don't like Brooklyn natural. And I'm like, I know what that smells like. I know what you don't want.
that's what your guests are saying. We want minimal intervention, but not Brooklyn natural. So meaning
Yeah.
well made.
At the end of the day, yeah. And we
Yeah.
both know what that smells like, right?
Yes.
The Brooklyn stuff, which is cool because the minimal intervention stuff is like guided wine, right? Of course, there's a couple things you have to do, but it's like with minimal touches. And at the end of the day, does it feel natural? It feels honest. You know what I mean? I
Mm,
think that's the thing. And Italy's been doing a great job doing that. And it helps me build a list that opposes both sides of the natural wine drinker
right.
and people that want these really great, honest wines. The other thing is Barolo and Barbaresco that's young.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, this is super cool because it's hard to convince people to drink Bordeaux, Barolo, Barbaresco, Napa Cab that's young. Everyone's just like, oh, it needs time. Anyone that goes to the table and order it. 2019 vintage of Barolo Barbaresco. I was like, maybe some of them we could drink right now. 2020 vintage. I was like, wow, I think we could drink a lot of these, right? Pull the cork. Let's go.
Yeah, cool.
And then 2021 in the past year has me super convinced. I'm putting things by the glass that are high end. People are loving it. It's drinking really great. It's super accessible. The aromatics are incredible. So young Barolo and Barbaresco has been a real big hit with the crowd and accessible prices too. I feel like in the New York market, we have a big range of Barolo Barbaresco that you get your hands on that are
Right.
crazy unique and good. For me, I try to get everyone to drink vermouth. I think it's a fun thing. People kind of raise an eyebrow at it. It's a big thing right now in big cities. It's
Yep.
huge in Italy forever.
Perfect aperitif, right?
Yeah.
Guiding people through the meal, starting with something like a vermouth.
Yeah. So we have people hot on vermouth right now in the restaurant, which is cool. We have a big section for it.
Cool.
We even give it away instead of sparkling wine. Like how every restaurant gives you sparkling wine when you walk into the door. So if you could walk in and you're special occasion, birthday, anniversary, or you're in the industry, or you're one of our friends, you're getting vermouth.
Very cool.
I think the last time me and you were hanging out, we had Calisano vermouth,
We
and
definitely did.
everybody was doing
Yes.
it.
Yes, we did. I love that Calisano. It's delicious. I know you also have a really extensive Amari program at Peasant. So,
Yeah,
and spirits in general. Obviously we're talking about wine, but how about on the spirit side for Italy? And what are you seeing come in? What are you working with and playing with behind the bar?
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of Amaro. Every region makes their own. Every like small town makes their own. It all depends on what they have in their backyard to throw into the bottle. We search for vintage Amaro. We go back to like the 30s to 40s.
Very cool.
Yeah, and all the way up, which are completely made different than how they are today. It's obvious when it gets into your hand and you get to taste it and smell it. But there's other spirits too that I guess you don't see on a lot of back bars. So we have in every category an Italian spirit. So if you want rum, I don't go real big on like, oh, you need all the rum or you need all the vodka, you need all the gin. I have Italian rum,
Italian rum.
Italian
Wow.
rum from Sicily. We have Italian vodka, which you can make vodka anywhere in the world. You can make it wherever you want, but I have it from Italy.
Cool.
We have Italian whiskey that sits in super Tuscan cask, right?
Nice.
Italian gin that's made with Mediterranean seawater, so it's got that salty
Oh,
vibe to it.
beautiful.
So it's killer. So
Yeah.
every category, we don't try to go deep with like, all the specific vodkas that are high end and gins that are high end. Our servers and bar staff, if someone says, hey, do you have Belvedere or Grey Goose? Instead of going there, we go, actually, we have an Italian vodka or we have an Italian gin. Would you like to try it? And we won't talk about the producer yet, but we want that in their hands. And once they start drinking it and enjoying it, then we could show them the bottle, and then they get super excited because chances are they never heard of an Italian gin.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you're playing with all Italian spirits as well. Because obviously we've seen the trends that cocktails and spirits have seen more growth than wine in the last few years. So I'm curious to see how you're adapting to that. Is there anything for you, as we look towards the end of this year into 2026 that's on the horizon that you are excited to play with at Peasant, or anything you're looking forward to in the new role at Wine Enthusiast?
Yeah. Again, Sardinia, I really want to get out into the market. I want to write about it. I want to talk about that region and excite people, really. Sparkling wine is always a topic for me. I think pound for pound, they make some of the best sparkling wine in the world. Italy, that is. The Metodo Classico, chances are, if you're sitting down and tasting and you're a sommelier and you're sitting with an importer or distributor, you're tasting Italian wine. Ask them if they make a sparkling wine. I bet you 8 out of 10 times there is a Metodo Classico of an interesting grape made there.
Right.
And, Metodo Classico is the Champagne method.
Speaking of Piedmont before, like the Alta Longa sparkling wines are killer, right? It's
They're
about
amazing.
finding them, but if anywhere's going to have it, I know it's going to be you.
Yeah, we have it. Yeah, we have multiple. And here's the thing with Alta Longa. They're Barolo winemakers. So I think they know how to make wine. And guess what they love too? They love Chardonnay. They love Burgundy. When you meet them, they're always traveling there to get
Oh yeah,
some insight, right? So now they're handling Chardonnay. Barolo winemakers handling Chardonnay and turn it into sparkling wine. And I think a lot of people on this podcast probably know, since it's Italian focused, that Italy loves champagne.
Oh, they do. Absolutely.
Right?
Oh yes.
Number one in the market for years.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'll always push some sparkling wine and
these fresh wines from Sardinia you mentioned. And how about, on the Wine Enthusiast side, I know you mentioned you're excited to give some more attention and energy to Sardinia. Is there anything else you're looking forward to there?
Yeah, Tuscany has a lot to offer. I think it's easy to say the word Chianti. Jeff's done, and Danielle, both of them have done an incredible job with Chianti Classico. Those wines are as exciting as they'll ever be, I think. They're hitting their pinnacle and they're only going up. But there's other parts of Tuscany, like the Costa Toscana side of it, like extreme west. There's some incredible Syrah being made. Again, you're talking minimal intervention style. There's Poderi Concori, who's an incredible producer. Oliviero Toscani, just to mention 2 Syrah producers that make Syrah with the heart and soul of Rhone in mind. It's just not they're making big, bold Syrah from, super Tuscan regions. They're really focusing on just the grape, and they're really interesting. Some of them are lean and fresh. Some of them have the soul of the Rhone.
Very cool. Some fun stuff to look forward to. Well, Michael, it's been so great to have you on the show. As we wind down, we'll do our rapid fire little quiz we do for all our guests. So if you can do your best to answer these questions in a couple sentences. Number 1, what is your number 1 tip for mastering the U.S. wine market?
Ooh, don't get too complicated. Just like I said with talking about Italian wine, talk about the cheese that's in the region. That's going to stick with them with that wine. Just don't overcomplicate things. Things simple.
Make it relatable.
Yeah, we want these things in people's hands. It's not homework. It's a drink. That's all we want. It got super complicated over. When I started, and I know you've been in the wine business for a long time. It's got really complicated when I started, and it was intimidating to become a sommelier, a wine director. Now that I'm kind of running the reins on everything I do, I'm making a lot more friends just talking how me and you were talking right here.
Yeah, making it relatable. Absolutely. I think keep it simple. I love that message. As some advice, just life advice as well.
Yeah, right.
Right. What is something you might have told your younger professional self? I mean, obviously you've been doing this a long time, as you told us, but what is something you might have told yourself about working in the wine industry that you know now that you didn't know when you started?
Don't pay attention to the rules. If you have to put something on the menu because you want to sell it, do it. Again, this wine comes with so many rules on how you make it, how you talk about it. You have to be right about everything you're saying. When you have a menu in front of you and you want someone to buy it, right? I'll put something on the menu like Italian or Chenin Italiano. right? Because I love a grape called Vespaiolo in the Veneto.
Mm.
And I think it reminds me of Chenin, and I know people know Chenin. So if I put Vespaiolo on the menu, people are going to be like, what? So I broke rules. Just break rules. Do what you think's going to work, right? I wish I did this a long time ago. I have Italian Burgundy on the menu. Literally, instead of the grape, I wrote Italian Burgundy. And
You should say Hardy Burgundy,
yeah, something, right? Exactly.
Appeal to the 60-plus-year-old crowd.
If I did that under some of the sommeliers I work for, they'd be like, absolutely not. That's not what it is. And it's just like, they'll get it. And I'm going to say that when I go to the table anyway, you know?
So put it in front of them so they can explore it and understand what they're reading. I love that. So
chefs break rules all the time. Chefs do it all the time. And guess what? Some of the best ones are famous for that.
Absolutely. All right. And finally, what is one of your favorite travel hacks? Most of us travel a lot in this industry. So,
travel hack. You know, when you're there, just go to the dirtiest looking bar that you could find. That looks cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Walk in there, order the Negroni or order, something that's not complicated to make, right? Don't ask for a French 75 or something in Italy. Walk in there, order a Negroni or an Americano, and then ask where to eat, ask where to stay,
Trust the locals.
It's the best travel guide.
Yeah. Get off ChatGPT and just ask the locals, right?
Yeah. And get lost too. Don't be afraid. You got to do your homework. I mean, maybe be a little afraid in some regions, but don't be running around Calabria. But you could definitely, however, you could have some fun in a local bar and definitely talk.
For sure. Awesome, Michael. Thank you so much for joining me. How can our listeners follow along with you and what you're up to at Peasant and at Wine Enthusiast?
You could follow at Peasant directly, Peasant NYC. But if you guys want to reach out to me, it's at the Big Grappa. So
awesome.
A little cute handle there. I like it when you call me Big Grappa.
Perfect. All right, Michael, thanks so much. Thank you again for joining us today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Jules.
Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned each week for new episodes of Masterclass US Wine Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. And remember, if you've enjoyed today's show, hit the like and follow buttons wherever you get your podcasts.